Can a virtual assistant know you better than you know yourself? We'll find out today. Ram, your name is Ram, right? I'm Jamin. We are here to talk about virtual assistants. And before we really start talking about virtual assistants, I want to know a little background about your company, NCompass Technology. And could you give us, the audience, like a review of how you came to own the company and run it and things like that?
Yep. Thanks, Jamin. Thanks for having me on this podcast. Yeah, so NCompass Technology Solutions, we are a human-centric unified data and AI company. We primarily work with manufacturing, healthcare sector, and we help businesses provide more AI and data solutions, to automate their operations, to make sure that, all their the good benefits that only the high-tech companies are using, we bring it to the mid-market, Midwest companies.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. And when did you start NCompass Technologies by chance?
Yeah, so we started in 2014. Oh, it feels like yesterday, but yeah, it was 2014. But until 2018 or 2019, I was just being an independent consultant.
Okay.
And it was my first employee I hired in 2018. And after that, we grew, and today we are 65 people across India and USA. Okay.
And then at what point did you first encounter ZL Workforce and, hire your first virtual assistant? How did that happen?
Yeah. So interestingly, I've never even thought about virtual assistants first. But the moment I thought that, okay, you know what, I was focusing on literally everything. I was doing finance, HR, operations, sales, marketing, and I was getting involved in everything. I was very busy, but I was not being effective. So that's when I thought that there are so many things I was doing in my day that 50-60% of them are repetitive tasks. So I was thinking, okay, how do I automate this? Because we talk about automation to all the businesses. Then I started thinking about how do I automate my own life, with some of these things that are routine, but still very important activities. And that's when I started thinking about virtual assistants.
That's kind of funny. You're optimizing other people's businesses, but you're like, wait, I haven't optimized myself. All right,
exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then the first virtual assistant you hired was Carla, right? And tell me the moment you realized that Carla as a virtual assistant was really working well for your company.
Yeah, I think it was Carla and one other person. Both of them joined at the same time.
Okay, my bad.
And then, so when I really felt it was working well was when Carla started thinking like me. I think that was my first instance. I still remember I was telling her okay, so when she joined first, I was telling her who am I, what I do, what are my pain points, what are my strengths and weaknesses, more about weaknesses, that I'm not good at keeping up on time, I'm not good at following up, I'm losing a lot of sales because I don't remember that I have to follow up with these clients, right? So I told her all those things. The minute I could see that, oh, these are all the things that I forgot, but they started showing up in my meetings. And then she started saying that, okay, this is the client, even before AI was there, right? She started telling me, this is the company, this is what they do, maybe you should talk about this and everything. And right before the meeting, 5 minutes before the meeting, she used to give me more information, this is how you want to start it off and everything. That's when I thought, okay, I found my clone. Somebody who thinks like me, who is enabling me to do much better in my activities.
To be more productive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Effective. Okay. Yeah. And I guess that is an example of a VA saving you time and improving the quality of your work, which is excellent. When people hear about virtual assistants, they often think just about administrative work, which is a little bit of what you mentioned. And what other ways can virtual assistants help you, help companies?
Yeah. So generally it starts off with that, right? Administrative work, setting up of meetings. Hey, look at my email, answer these things, book my appointments, general stuff. But right from the beginning, and again, kudos to Carla on this, I could see that she could help me out in my major activities. There are certain important activities that I do, which is sales and strategy and everything. So I could tell her, this is how I do my lead generation. It takes me X amount of hours and this is what I do. I go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I use these tools, I find out people like this, then I reach out to them and everything. She not only was able to understand that, and she was able to document it. And then at some point of time, right, she was able to do much better job than me because she was focused only on that piece, whereas I was doing 120 things. So that's when I could feel that, okay, she still does my administrative work and everything. But the most important ones that I do are the lead generation, the sales, the strategies and everything, which is where she understands and then does some of those things, which I feel has to be the right way for a VA also, rather than just asking them to do the mundane, like the administrative tasks, get them to work on the things that really matter to you.
And that's much more exciting, right?
It is. It is.
Lead generation, that's an important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you, actually, I went on your website, and you also mentioned on your website, human-centric, like a company. How do you make your company human-centric when you're all, like a lot of your team members are remote?
Yeah, I think first it starts with me. Human centricity is something that's ingrained in me. Like, even whatever I'm doing in my business, so I worked with a lot of bigger companies like the Microsofts, the Ford Motors and everything. But I always felt the need for my skills was more towards the startups, the small, the medium-sized businesses, bringing the technology goodness to them. So the human centricity actually evolved from there. And I always treat my direct reportees the same way that I want them to go back and treat the other people also. So I always make sure that our core values are being repeated. I always tell mistakes are okay, blunders are not, so, and then I always tell that customer comes first. One of our core values is make mama proud, so these kinds of things, right? So I keep repeating them. I try to follow them myself so that hoping that this is going to go spiral and they are going to treat their direct reportees in the same way.
That's really nice. But I am curious. You said mistakes are okay, but blunders are not. What are blunders versus mistakes? Just curious.
In our world, blunders are going into a customer database and bringing it down.
Okay. I was just curious.
That wouldn't be good. But mistakes, I understand, like a lot of times, right? we do things where, okay, the bugs are there, some of the features are not working. Yeah, I understand. And mistakes do happen there. But, I think you should be careful when you're, especially in a services industry.
Okay. And you have a lot of team members in India, and I know ZL Workforce has, members in the Philippines. What are the differences you see between working with team members in different areas, I guess?
Yeah. So even though I come from India, I've never worked in India. So that's the biggest challenge that I face. Yes, I understand the culture, and culture is a very big part of whoever you hire, whether it's from India, Philippines, anywhere. The better you can understand the culture, how their family systems work, how their communities work and everything, it's always helpful. With India, I had that a little bit of luck there, but the Indians that show up as work, the Indians that I normally see on the streets and everything are like two different things. Okay. So that was a huge learning there also. But the biggest difference that I see is with Philippines, the core culture is almost the same. Still that Asian culture and everything is there. The core culture is the same. But the way I handle, like in case of Carla, she's from Philippines and everything. I think I don't need to do a lot of follow-ups with her. Generally, they are proactive in communication. They over-communicate. They're very honest, upfront and everything. Whereas with India, it's more of let me do my stuff and get back to you. If it takes 10 days or 15 days, wait, I'll get back to you and give my update later on, right? And I'm somebody who has 150 thoughts going on in my head, and I want to immediately ping or call people and say that, dude, what's happening here and everything. So that's where some of the cultures have helped me, especially with a VA. I want somebody to be more proactive, over-communicative and everything. So that's how it worked. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. What did the onboarding process look like for you for remote workers? Like, how do you get them up to speed?
I think first, for any remote workers, in our company at least, we have this blueprint where before we hire, we write out our mission. Why are we hiring for this position? And the first 3 months is only aligned towards that mission. So we document everything. What are your roles, responsibilities? How do we exactly want you to grow? We document everything, and while they're going through that, we ask them to update the same document.
Oh, cool.
So, okay, this is the document, this is what I'm supposed to do, but I could do this better, or else this doesn't make sense. By the way, I found this process to be broken. So because that's our culture also, we want you to be leaders, we want you to make changes, it's a very open culture that we have.
So it's almost like they're reviewing themselves as you're reviewing.
They're reviewing our process, they're commenting our process, and we are empowering them to be the leaders who can communicate, collaborate, and then, tell what's going on in the company and everything. So that's how we do it. It's a very documented process. And in those 3 months, we see a lot of people that bring changes to that process, and that will help us identify what is the next 6 months or 9 months going to look like for you. Are you more of a strong result-oriented person? Are you more process-oriented? Where would you shine and everything? And based on that, we make changes.
Okay. What advice would you give for someone hiring their first VA?
Before you hire a VA, first ask yourself, is your process repetitive and is it documented? Do not hire a VA without understanding what is the process that you want this VA to execute, and if it is not documented. Because if it is all in your mind and it's never documented and you are expecting somebody to come in and be as good as you, that's never going to happen.
Okay.
The second thing is have realistic expectations. You are at your position because you have been that good. So understand that and have the right kind of expectation that it will take X number of days or months for them to reach at that position. The third thing is be open to the flexibility that they might bring in their own flavor. They might bring in their own way of thinking or way of doing things and everything, and you should be open for that also. So that is how I have, at least for me, that has worked out that way.
Oh, very cool. So you've had a lot of remote workers. How do you identify someone who's ready for like a managerial position or like to move up in some way?
I think the first thing is how many better people is that person creating in the company? That's my first gauge that I see is, are you mentoring? Are you talking to other people, empowering other people? That's the first sign. For me, a manager is somebody who knows when not to manage. That's my key thing, where you should know when to step back and let them come with their own ideas, and everything, and then let them run the show. And you are just staying back, seeing still, you still have your checks and balances, but you are not doing like the management on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I know some business owners might be worried about hiring someone overseas, like, oh, they're worried they might get scammed. What would you say to them like when they're thinking about hiring a virtual assistant?
Today we live in a world where I personally feel privacy is a misnomer. If you're scared, you should be scared of your phone also.
Well, we're the product.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's free, you're the product.
Yeah. So, so I think there are surely certain guardrails that we can put. Like in my case, we use a lot of remote password management tools. We have certain guardrails in place. And again, right, I don't want anybody to give like your most sensitive, most high profile, most important things to your VA unless you build that confidence. Like I have always treated my VA as somebody who's eventually going to think, act, everything like me, understand me, but will build a much better version of me. So with that kind of confidence, even with my VA, I tell her everything about why this meeting is important, where am I going today, what am I eating, everything, so that at the end of the day, we all live in a context world. The better context I can give, the better successful they become. And trust and confidence is only built over a period of time. Okay, so put your right guardrails, make sure that you are not giving your most secured information out and everything, and then see how is that person performing, and slowly you will start diving them into your world.
So trust but verify.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. So the last question I'll have you for today is, you mentioned 2 virtual assistants, Carla and another. Mm-hmm. What didn't you expect from them that now you cannot live without, I guess, as far as the business?
Yeah, great question. I think, like I said before, right, I think what Carla does is prepare me, and she understands my weaknesses, right? Yes, I also know my weaknesses, but I'm not able to fix them, right? But where she empowers me is she understands that, okay, he has too many meetings. He doesn't know which is the next meeting he goes. Like small things, right? When she sets up a meeting, on the location column, she puts the address. That's a big thing because I don't know where am I going next until I get into my car and then I open up my Outlook and then I see that, okay, the location is there, right? Small things that she does, right?
I'm glad you made it here today. No.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. And then, like planning my, calendar in a way that she knows that, okay, these meetings are way more important. And then she kind of had made my life in such a way that all the operational, HR, finance related things are only on my Thursdays and Fridays in the last part of the day. Whereas the first Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, she makes me focus more on strategy and sales and these things. And the fact that she does all the lead generation, she understands our services, what we are trying to do and everything. So that is something that I don't know if without her, I might go back to my previous self again and struggle there.
Bonus follow-up question. I almost forgot to ask this. I noticed you work with AI a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to people who think, oh, why do I need a virtual assistant when I can just use AI instead? Like, what is the value in the virtual assistant, I guess?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, that applies to everything in the world today, right? Why do I need a marketing person? Why do I need a content writer? Why do I need so many people, right? So my answer to everything is give an AI tool to your virtual assistant who knows how to use that AI tool and does much more bigger, better things in life. Same thing applies to you. Once you have an AI tool that your virtual assistant is using, so you will be able to give much bigger, better things that matter to you, to your virtual assistant, and you yourself can do much bigger, better things, right? That's the way the human brain works. The fact that we have figured out how to make fire not by using rocks anymore, so we went to much better things now. When we think of fire, to make fire, we don't look for rocks anymore, right? So the natural progression of things for a human brain is once all those mundane things are given away, you start looking at much bigger and better things to do.
Solve bigger problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, this has been a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Ram.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.